late in the show. Let me give you my Power Five since we're here now. Hollywood out until January. Yeah, he's going to be out a minute. So they're a little lean there at the receiver position. So let's talk about the Power Five here, folks. Let's talk about that NFL Power Five. Let's start with number 5, if I can find it. Okay. This is like the people talk about in the political world when they do those presidential polls. This is just a snapshot, folks. It's 2 weeks into the season. Bill Belichick would call this the first quarter. You got your first 4 games, that's 1 quarter. Your second 4 games is 2 quarters. Your third is 3, and of course now you got 17 games, so it's not quite even. But your last 5, that would be the fourth quarter, according to Bill Belichick. Okay, so we're still in the first quarter. It's simply a snapshot. I got the Saints. I mean, the Saints are 3rd in total offense. Dominated. I talked about the Saints yesterday. The Dallas Cowboys, that game was never close. They have scored 44 and 47 points in the first 2 games. That's college football stuff, and they're 7th in total defense. They're seventh in total defense. Derek Carr playing his best football. I like this Rashid guy, that second receiver opposite of Chris Olave. And, of course, Alvin Kamara looking like a second-year player out of Tennessee instead of a guy that's been in the league about 8 years at this point. Blocking well up front, doing really well. Now, I got him as the number 5 best team in the NFL. And I did want to mention, honorable mention, Minnesota would be up for honorable mention for beating 49ers the way they have. Brian Flores has got that defense clicking on all lanes. Plus, they have injuries there at skill positions like Jordan Addison. And, of course, Jefferson went out at the end of the game. Of course, T.J. Hawkinson, I think he started off the season on IR, and that's their 3 biggest guns right there. They're doing this on limited players with Aaron Jones, former Green Bay Packer, and a bunch of guys I've never heard of. So kudos to them. And, of course, Sam Darnold there, who's also looked to have been a bust. But love that. Love O'Connell. O'Connell's just a really good schemer of a coach. So they're honorable mention, but number 5 out of my Power 5 is the New Orleans Saints, from what I said early. Number 4, the Bills. I tell you what, one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league over the past 2 years, particularly this year. It's only 2 weeks, but still, Josh Allen, clean pocket. Love that running game. They just continue to lead into it. And again, Allen not even making that many pass attempts, 23 and 19. Unlike Jared Goff, who lost, my Super Bowl team, who lost to the Tampa Bay Bucks, Jared Goff, 55 pass attempts. That's not good. That's not balanced. 23 and 19. They're finally finding the balance there with Buffalo. Thank you, Pickles, number 5. Number 4 is the Bills there. So they've got that balance there. James Cook there. No Stephon Diggs. That's addition by subtraction. Love me some Dalton Kincaid. Khalif Shakur at wide receiver. Keon Coleman, mark my word, he's been a little quiet, but he's going to catch on as the season goes along. He's not yapping for the ball. You got Dawson Knox there. 2 good tight end sets, power running football. The defense has played better than I expected. Plus, they've had some injuries on their best linebacker. I think Milano's out. They've had to replace their entire secondary other than, I think it's Rashid Douglas, their lead corner, the guy they got from Green Bay last year at the deadline. Great pickup there. Buffalo's played pretty well. I know they gave up some points there to Arizona, who looks pretty good. Got off to a really fast start. Mauled. Absolutely mauled. By the way, they've won this division 5 years in a row. They kind of know they're going to win, okay? If they can keep this up and build on this and maybe make a move at the trade deadline, they're a legit Super Bowl contender. I mean, we know Allen can make it happen. We know it. It just seems like something's up with the team every year. So they're number 4 as of right now. All right. Let me go back to my first page. Number 3. Now, this is a controversial one. I know what you're going to say. But what do you want in a football team that wins? Head coach, quarterback, protect the quarterback, get after the other quarterback. Okay? Who's doing that right now? And running the football. Well, that's the Chargers. Second in the NFL in rushing, total yards. Second in NFL in rushing and total yards. And yes, they beat guys like who else did that? I mean, yeah, they beat up on the Raiders, but the Raiders beat the Ravens this year. And then they went across country and beat up on the Carolina Panthers. They're leaning on the run game. They're getting after the quarterback here. You can see this is a difference in daylight and dark. They are physical. They're no nonsense. You know that Herbert is a big-time quarterback. We've seen the play there from him, his ability to play through bad coaching and whatnot. But Joe Alt, Pro Football Focus, real high on the rookie there out of Notre Dame there, even playing right tackle. He's not even playing left tackle, which is his natural position. So, and they're 6 there. They're 6 there, I want to say, in the run defense. So playing good on both sides of the ball. They're playing physical football. They don't need that many skilled players. I really like this team. Big game this week against the on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And early on, I do like them to beat the Steelers up in Pittsburgh. They are the LA Chargers. They should be back in San Diego, Pickles. I would agree. Okay. All right. Number 2. Listen, I just mentioned this earlier. CJ Stroud slinging the ball up and down the field at a rate of 69% completion percentage. Okay. That is unbelievable. Outrushed their opponents the first 2 games, and these were pretty good opponents. I thought the Colts were going to beat them in week 1. And that was a tight game. It was a 2-point game. But they went against that number 2 for Houston. They went against that Chicago run defense, which was the best run defense in the NFL last year. They're no joke. Caleb Williams is just having a slow, and I want to talk about that tomorrow, by the way, about these young quarterbacks. They all look terrible. But like I said, they've outrushed their opponents by 100 yards over the last 2 games. Top run defense, they're third in total defense. They're 2-0. They have a 2-game lead over every other team in their division. Last year, they won a playoff game. Stroud looks that much better this year. He has a guy on his best behavior, mind you, in his first year, Diggs, but really Nico Collins is playing like a true number 1 receiver, and not to mention the speedy deep threat in Tank Dell. They don't even need Joe Mixon on that team. They can use Pierce or anybody else. Mixon got banged up like I thought he would. But I just think that Houston is really good. They have a shot to get a very high seed in the NFL. They match up pretty well against Kansas City, by the way. Last game they played Kansas City, barely won that game. That was without even Stroud. A lot of the same players on that team. Love that pass rush. Adding Danielle Hunter, had a big sack the other night on Sunday Night Football. I told you him and Will Anderson going to complement each other really well there. Good front, middle, and back. They're just a tough out for anybody to beat. I really like this Houston team. They're actually a little bit better than I thought they would be. And I thought they would be good. I thought they would be good. And you're right, Coach. I thought and read and hoped and prayed and all that good stuff that maybe Tennessee could figure out a way to get Stroud. I had my doubts because he was a Ohio State quarterback, but Lord knows they haven't had any good ones. Never. But this guy is a rock star. And last but not least, I mean, Kansas City Chiefs at number 1. What are you going to say? Listen, I know they've got injuries. I just talked about them. But the Kansas City Chiefs have beaten the last 2 teams that were in the AFC Championship game, folks. That's a rough schedule. Remember, the Ravens were in the AFC Championship game last year and come out like gangbusters and had a shot to beat them if it wasn't just for just an inch there on Isaiah Likely there. You know what I'm saying? But they did beat them. And then last week, maybe they caught some breaks there. They beat that Cincinnati Bengal team who they had to beat the year before to get into the Super Bowl. But for the record, of course, Joe Burrow is still 3-2 against the Chiefs. But in college football terms, Coach Carroll, in college football, that's the equivalent of beating an Alabama and Ohio State if you're Georgia. They'll start the season back-to-back. Baltimore and the strength of schedule, right? Baltimore and Cincinnati, if you look at the resume of those teams, okay? So you look at that, the equivalent of being an Ohio State and an Alabama if you're a Georgia or somebody, right? So the defense is playing really well. I know they're not quite as good as they were last year defensively, but they're good enough. They're good enough. A sack, strip, fumble against Joe Burrow, and they turned over Lamar Jackson a couple of times as well. Still got that issue at left tackle. I talked about Kingsley, the movement of him. That's going to be a question, but they always figure out a way to get it done.